Very good morning, and many thanks for having us right here on MBCI TV. You're right on time for Leadership Wednesday. Of course, you know, when it is on Wednesday, it matters leadership. During this particular show, with the very main purpose of ensuring we better our leadership. Don't forget, it all fails or actually succeeds on leadership. It rises and falls on leadership, and therefore you have a role, you have a responsibility, you have an obligation, as we also do, to ensure that we make our leadership better. Of course, it's another opportunity for us also to be in a position to look into a very important subject. Of course, it has been hitting the headlines. This is something that has been affecting us as a nation in the recent days, and this is the floods disaster, or the floods menace that our country has actually been going through. Now, we want to look today at this particular matter, and we want also to find out how has the government been responding to the floods menace. How has the government been responding to the flood menace? Are we satisfied as the government, and also maybe the county governments, put the necessary measures to ensure that they mitigate the effects, and even also be in a position to also prevent the rampant effects of this particular disaster that we've been witnessing in the country? This is a subject that we are going to focus on today. We have a guest that will join us in a little while. Bwana Ben Gadhogo is a governance expert. He will be right here on this particular channel to help us get into the nitty-gritties of our conversation. But of course, we are also not going to leave you out. As much as possible, we want you to interact with us. What do you think? The question that we are asking you, what do you think, what is your opinion? What is your feeling? What is your view on how the government has actually been responding to the flood menace, or to the flood disaster? What is your take? What is your opinion? Do you think the government has done enough? Do you think there are some measures that the government would have actually put way back, even before the onset of these particular floods? Do you think you are satisfied, or maybe the challenges have actually been too heavy for the government? You can feel free to share with us. You know the drill. Catch us live on our social media pages. We are live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and we are also live on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. And for those interested in the shortcut platform 23814, you can drop a comment or two. We'll be glad to also see how you respond to this particular discussion. Of course, I'm also joined by my colleague Paul Kagi. Good to see you. Habari asubuhi.
Yeah, Salama. Good morning, and how are you? I hope you day has started very well. Welcome to our Leadership Wednesday, whereby we look at various issues affecting our country in our own nation and even beyond borders. Once again, my name is Paul Kagi. Welcome to this program.
Absolutely. And of course, before we get into the heart and soul of our discussion, Kagi, there are quite a number of items that have been hitting the headlines across this particular 1 week.
Yes, before we go to our major topic today, is just to mention like 2 or 3 issues which are making headlines today. Number one, the Linturi Oyster motion officially kicks off. And Mangicho, we are aware that the 11-member committee was given a task by law to be able to interrogate the findings of the National Assembly regarding to the allegations that were leveled against the Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi regarding to the fertilizer saga. And Mr. Honorable John Wamboka, who is MP for Bumula, had said that they are ready to be able to push the agenda of making sure that the minister does not serve in the cabinet, especially in the Ministry of Agriculture. And he is saying that in a way his security is jeopardized, and he has been forced to be able to improve his security following some threats. But away from that, is that we are waiting for the 11-member committee to be able to present their findings to the National Assembly, whereby Rintuli, I think 2 days ago, made his submissions to the committee. And after the committee, now we wait whether the resolution of the committee is to declare the CS having maybe worked against the law in the Ministry of Agriculture, and if the committee findings sees that he is okay, he has no allegations to be able to answer, then he continues serving the Ministry of Agriculture. But all eyes focus on Parliament, whether it is on the 11 members committee. By now we know that the 149 members of Parliament really passed a motion to declare that Linturi is not fit to serve in that ministry. But the MP is going even more higher, and it takes more miles to write to the Kenya partners to declare the agriculture CS Mithika Linturi, who is not supposed to work with any country, whether locally or internationally. But this MP is pushing for the CS to resign. But I was asking myself a question, Mangicho.
Yes.
I don't know. The 11-member committee is working according to law to interrogate the CS and bring its findings. At the same time, they want him to resign. I don't know which is which. Is either we allow him to resign and leave the other, or we follow the due process and see the outcome of the proceedings.
Of course, but the issue of resigning, that is his own choice.
Yes.
He can decide he wants to resign. Of course, if he doesn't, now if they go the other route, Kage, it basically means now he'll be forced out of office. He'll be forced out of work. Which is quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
But of course, most would argue that back in Africa, particularly also maybe in Kenya, we are not used to having some of our appointed leaders taking such kind of responsibility and just get out of office until maybe the investigation is done and it is concluded. And if they are found culpable, of course, the next step should be taken. If they are found to be innocent, they can get back to their job.
And the committee has 10 days to finalize its findings and present to the Parliament, I think, next Tuesday, whereby the National Assembly is going to look at that event. But this is the first CS to be impeached
yes.
through the 2010 Constitution,
yes.
because the due process that we are talking about today has not been there before.
So it will be a history that will be made if actually that particular process goes successfully, and maybe we see that finally he'll be put out of office. Of course, Kagi, just maybe to point, and I think even maybe our guest later on will chip in into this, one of the major issues that has been affecting such kind of a process is basically the politicization.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we are not going to see this particular process not being politicized, then it's going to be unusual. It's going to be something unique this time around. If the two sides of the divide can actually come together and maybe vote in a unilateral way or in the same way, then it will basically maybe point to what we can actually call, or maybe what we can actually believe that it is an improvement in how maybe the House actually does its business or conducts its business.
And also my concern is that I hope the Select Committee is going to do its work without any external interference from anybody to give us the real findings on this matter. The Nairobi Governor, Johnson Sakaja, was interrogated also by a parliamentary committee through the Senate, and there were some revelations which are very, very interesting there, whereby some of the officers from the county government of Nairobi were really hard pressed to explain how some people were given some jobs which are not within their line. And one of the areas that were exposed is the areas of, I think, fire department, whereby some of the people who are in charge of fire departments, I was listening to that interrogation, and one of them has done theology, and people are asking how a theologian will be able to handle the issues of the fire disasters in the city. Others are librarians. and they were asking, because we have people who are experts in the areas of maybe fire disasters, where are they? Mm-hmm. And why is county not picking people? In fact, I could remember Senator for Nairobi was asking, our problem is that it's not that we don't want these people, but our problem is, why is the county government of Nairobi is not giving jobs to the right people? If a person is a librarian, we have that department in the county. Why don't they serve in that department? And many other departments. The Sakaja was there, and the issue was that he was grilled over the expertise of the staff in the firefighting team. And two of the staffs are said to have studied theology, others studied library studies and travels and tours respectively. And they were given even time to be able to explain how this comes to be. Mm-hmm. But these are some of the challenges that we're experiencing in our counties, whereby the county maybe public service boards are not really doing their jobs. Because I could see in our dailies, we see some jobs which are being advertised from various counties. The question remains, if we have the county service, public service boards, why don't they give our counties the right people to serve in every department? And if the public service boards in our counties cannot be able to give us the expertise in every area, then why should we have them? Okay. For example, if you have a department which is given expertise, then we expect good services. But if you provide people who are not experts in some departments, of course, you expect some downfalls in those departments. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
Kagi, I totally agree with you. Actually, this one cannot be, this cannot actually be overlooked, right, and overemphasized, because I think it's quite an unfortunate turn of events in Nairobi, considering that it's the country is a city, and having some of the news that we've actually been seeing lately, it's quite disappointing. And just as we've said, and just as you've put, again, it all squarely goes back to leadership. And I think the current governor is on the spot. And quite a number of people, even some of the analysts, have actually come out to even say that compared even to the previous governors, Sonko and Kidero, it's like this one is totally out. And it's quite unfortunate because if we get it wrong in Nairobi, then you can just even wonder what do you expect of the other counties. So in terms of accountability, in terms of competence, I think we have a lot of problems. And of course, don't forget that there are also a lot of allegations in terms of mismanagement of public resources, mismanagement of county funds at very, very, very mind-boggling levels currently happening in the city. And from that particular interrogation that was done in Parliament, you could be in a position to tell, because even some of the officials that were there, it's like they were just caught flat-footed. They could not actually even answer to some of those allegations. So we really want to hope that this might not really take long, because I think the effects would actually be very adverse for the city and also the country in general, Kagi.
And maybe finally on the same, I really hope Nairobi Governor Bwana Sakaja is going to up his game, because he is a young politician who is a role model for many young people. And the way he's going to manage our city, our capital city, is very, very key to maybe having confidence and hope with our young politicians who are coming up. But if he messes up his job in Nairobi City, then it's going to discourage even those people who have high hopes in young politicians, and they are going to transform this nation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sure. And remember, you're still watching us right here on the Leadership Wednesday, talking matters leadership, and definitely inviting your views and opinions on the same, of course, with a particular focus today on the current flooding menace. And we want to find out from you, what do you think? What is your take on how the government has actually been responding to this particular menace? 238-14 254 shortcut platform. Catch us live on our social media pages. Facebook is MBCI TV and YouTube is MBCI TV official. We'll be glad to also see how you respond to this particular conversation. But at this particular juncture, as we had promised, we have a guest, an analyst, governance analyst in the set. That is Bwana Ben Gathogo. Karibu sana, good to have you. A very good morning to you.
Asante sana.
Have you been?
I've been okay.
Safe from the floods?
Safe from the floods.
Yes.
That's why I'm here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. I know we'll be getting Bwana Gathogo into that particular topic and be in a position to also get some of your views on the same. But maybe just quickly and briefly, your take on the Linturi saga.
Okay. First of all, is that there's a weak link in our governance, in that we threw Chapter 6 under the bus. Okay. Under normal circumstances, Linturi should not be sitting pretty in a government office, because once you've been mentioned, the honorable thing to do is to step aside. Investigations are done when you are out of the office. If you are found not guilty, you continue serving. If you are found with to be of questionable integrity, you actually now exit the scene.
Yes.
But the mere fact that Linturi remains in office is an affront to a constitution, especially Chapter 6, that talks about leadership and integrity. Okay. And I usually say, Kenyans hate history, but it is good to remind them that we lost Chapter 6 when we allowed the former president and the current president to vie for presidency and deputy presidency when they had a heinous crime at The Hague to answer to. Mm-hmm. So from that day henceforth, we drew Chapter 6 under the bus, and almost any criminal can continue serving and probably use the immense power in the offices to subvert justice.
But when you're talking about mentioning Bwana Gathogo, because those who are of a contrary opinion would say sometimes it can be mentioned, but you're innocent, and maybe people would take advantage of just mentioning people.
That's what we say, you step aside. Once you step aside, you are investigated. If you are not, and it happened during Kibaki's time. You remember during Kibaki's time, there was no closer minister to Kibaki than Mweraria. They came a long way 40 years back. But when Mweraria was mentioned, he was forced to step aside. Okay. Among the people who are also close to Kibaki was the former MP for Nyandarua. I don't think whether he's still serving.
Kimunya. Amos.
Yeah, Kimunya even refused. But even when he refused, the president read that he had resigned, because the president is the appointing officer. Yes. Just to say that so and so has resigned. So if you want to say the president has not received your letter, that is up to you. But we have opened our floodgates for any criminal to serve until the last day to subvert justice, because if there are any files, he's still in charge of that office.
So the mere fact that they are in office, you have a very high chance of actually interfering with the investigation. Yeah,
and that chapter on leadership and integrity was put there to ensure that anybody serving in the public sphere was above reproach. You are supposed to be above reproach. That we don't have anything against you, that's why you are serving us. Parliament was supposed, before you get in, to vet you. Like, it's not the first time when Linturi is involved in these matters. It's not the first time. I mean, just before his appointment, there was this thing about him missing a door and entering, to arrange this, to arrange this in a region. People like those ones, we can say, the integrity is questionable from the word go. So what they do, they just perpetuate what Parliament would have been able to cure. When the president appointed him, Parliament would have been able to say there are a lot of issues, personal issues that Linturi has been involved in the past, and therefore he's not fit to serve. but due to chapter 6 having been thrown out,
Sure.
it was not put. Anybody the president almost get hired. I don't know about the case of that class 7 guy who was being appointed to serve as an ambassador in Congo. I did not follow to see whether he actually went to serve. You remember that interview?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, a guy of, somebody who obviously is not qualified for that job.
Yes.
Yet there are hundreds of thousands of Kenyans who can fit the bill, go serve as in foreign missions, being left out. So I kind of say also Parliament has a role, because it is the judiciary that actually allowed the former president and the current president to vie. Parliament would have cured that and said, we are going back to chapter 6 because we've suffered before by just passing people through a challenge of vetting, and then they go and mess us up downstream.
Are you confident that Parliament would this time around be successful in that impeachment exercise?
Yeah, according to the way they are talking, it is as if they want to drive that agenda. But it's also a very big test to Kenya Kwanza.
And is it because of accountability, or you think maybe they are uniting for other external factors?
Whatever, politics is about interest. There could be other factors, but I'm saying this is a case where we are putting Kenya Kwanza on the Avu to see whether some of us who feared that a lot of people in government were of questionable shades when it came to moral or character-wise, and we thought they were not the best people, but we gave them the benefit of the doubt. So if at this particular time we see that he's safe, it's going to send a very negative message that just about any corrupt person can actually serve in this government. But if for one reason or another he's kicked out, it's going to redeem the image of Kenya Kwanza as a government that actually fights corruption. Because corruption is stealing from us, even whether you're in the opposition or in government. Any corrupt person is a person stealing from you, because it's your taxes, and those taxes should go to work for you. So we baptize stealing public funds as corruption, and it sounds almost romantic, but that is a thief stealing from the public. It's a bigger thief than the person who snatches a phone, because once you snatch my phone, probably I'm going to work for another one. But if you steal money meant to go and buy medicine, it's going to kill somebody. So I usually say, let's see, these are thieves of public fund, so that we don't romanticize the term and say corruption or developer. What do you call them? Community. What do you call them? These people who grab land and build. Whatever, those are thieves. They are stealing public land. So once we get used to saying in leadership and governance, if somebody is a thief, just call him a thief, and don't give us terms like it's corruption, it is
abuse of office,
and all that. If somebody is stealing, he's stealing. When now we mention something like fertilizers, Kenya almost like 50% of us depend on agriculture directly to send people to school, to meet our bills every day. So if you can actually be involved in selling fake fertilizer, actually it's not only corruption, it goes to economic crime. That is supposed to be actually an economic crime. Yeah, a bigger charge should be economic crime.
Sure. I just want us to take a short break, but just before that, maybe what do you think about what's happening in Nairobi?
In Nairobi about Governor Sakaja.
Yes.
Sakaja himself was not qualified. He did not have a degree. It was proven beyond all reasonable doubt that Sakaja did not graduate at Nairobi University or Thames University. Again, we go back to chapter 6, whereby if you are not qualified, you are not qualified. So if somebody is not qualified, what do you expect him to go do?
There is no miracle that can happen.
Yeah, and of course, morally, if I don't have papers, another person comes for interview, he does not have papers. I will think, since I don't have papers and I'm serving, even him can serve as well. So Governor Sakaja had raised the hopes of Nairobians, having been born and brought up in Nairobi. I met him. He's quite intelligent and articulate. But on that...
So what is he missing if he's intelligent and articulate? What is he missing?
Integrity.
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 So it still goes back to integrity.
It still goes back to integrity. Until Kenyans come to one day say, even if you're intelligent and with papers and you lack integrity, don't serve in a public office.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a holy place because you are serving a lot of people. Your pronouncement, the way you act are going to affect a lot of people. So Governor Sakaja, I have very little sympathy with Nairobi and Kiambu or which other these
Nairobians
the people who vote just because they want to vote and get away with it. Also, in democracy, we say people get the kind of leaders they deserve. If you don't take voting seriously, you are going to get the Sakaja. So
is there an alternative? Is there an alternative, or the
Nairobi had very many qualified people?
I mean, as we look at things right now, is it that they are going just to persevere until 2027?
They can opt to kick him out.
Yes.
We have constitutional provisions whereby if the governor is not serving the public or any other public officer, including the president, from the president going down to the MCA, there are mechanism to kick them out.
To kick them out.
We wrote a very elaborate and good constitution in 2010 that allows us to, get rid of, at any point, get rid of anybody serving the public. So it is up to us Kenyans to go to court or to, to petition parliaments so that they can be able to deal with these matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. We take a short break. Of course, when we come back, we now delve into our key area of conversation, and that is the current floods disaster. But right now, let's have that short breather.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Dunamis International Gospel Center presents Nairobi, Kenya Healing and Deliverance Crusade. Theme: The Day of His Power. Ministering live, Dr. Pastor Paul and Dr. Mrs. Becky Paul Enenche. Dates 16th and 17th of May 2024. Time 5 p.m. daily. Venue: Kasarani Stadium, Nairobi. Come and experience salvation, healing, deliverance, miracles, signs and wonders, and the almightiness of God's power. Special feature includes Ministers Conference holding on Thursday the 16th and Friday the 17th of May 2024. Time 9 a.m. For inquiries, call 0758 655 045. Invite everyone. Jesus is Lord.
Ni nani alibetray Goliath?
Shut up everybody.
Joseph.
Hebu rudia kidogo.
Joseph.
Sorry. Ukipenda chongo?
Hey y'all, come look at this.
Chongoeka.
Hii verse ya John 3:16. Hebu niseme verse ya John 3:16.
Jesus wept. What did I hear? Jesus wept.
Nani aliua Yesu?
Nani aliua Yesu? Wale magaidi fulani. Walikuwa wanaitwa aje hao? Mapirate. It's my parents.
Where could she be? Naweza tu mpata, niambie naweza mpata.
From where I stand, that woman is long dead.
Ah,
na chocho ulipea dawa.
Hey, usinikumbushe.
Si nimepata nazunguka huko hivi.
Usinikumbushe.
Kula ndizi, kula ndizi.
In the Newton's law, everything about the law of gravity.
Na kula mandizi.
Auntie nisaidie. Auntie nisaidie.
Waridi jangwani.
Tune in this Thursday from 7:30 to 8 in the PM as we take you through on how you can prepare your chicken curry topped with naan bread and peas and potatoes curry. So tutaongeza kwa zote your peas and potatoes curry na kwa chicken curry. Okay.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back, and thank you so much. We are still delighted you are having us right here on the Leadership Wednesday edition, of course, and joining us and also giving us your opinions and your views. Now, we are looking at this particular discussion on the current flood menace, or some people can actually call it the current flood disaster. And we want to find out what are some of the ways the government has actually been responding, and are those measures effective? Are there things that maybe we need to do because the repercussion has actually been quite adverse, and so many of our people have actually been affected? What is your take? What do you think? We have a guest in the set helping us to get into the details of this particular discussion. Is a governance expert, Bwana Ben Gathogo. Thank you so much. Our platform for your feedback are quite open, wide open, 23814, and also on our social media pages, that is MBCI TV for Facebook, and also MBCI TV official in YouTube. You can drop a comment or two. We'll be glad to also see how you, what is your perspective on this particular matter. Welcome again, Bwana Gathogo. Now,
thank you.
Let's just begin, and from where you sit, do you think this is something that as a nation, as a government, we would have foreseen, or did it get us by surprise?
There's nothing surprising about the weather change, because we are champions of climate change. So I think this is just to confirm that climate change is real. But this was foreseen. There's an individual in Facebook called Samuel Cairo. He's almost been prophetic in the way he said the rain will begin on this particular day. It will begin in Makueni. The next would say it's going to be a very heavy rainfall in Nairobi, and was spot on. That's an individual who is not funded by the government.
Yes.
And the government has an entire department dealing with weather forecast. I mean, we pay them to tell us tomorrow it's going to rain, it's going to be sunny, and in fact in some countries, a farmer will not go to the farm without actually getting advice from the weather forecast. So there was nothing which the government did not know. because 6 months ago is when this topic about whether the El Nino, we are going to experience an El Nino or not, came about. But the intensity of it was not known by then. But a month before the rainfall, everybody who is interested in weather or weather forecast was aware that we are going to receive more than the amount of rain that we usually receive. So there was nothing surprising about it. It was not a surprise.
Yes, but also interestingly, Bwana, before Kagi comes in, are we really saying that the kind of magnitude we are witnessing is unique, haven't we in previous years experienced similar magnitude of this kind of rains?
They are telling us who were not born by then probably, this level of rainfall last happened in 1960, 1961. But of course now I was born when the second phenomenon happened, which was 2002 there about, during Kibaki's tenure. And then even before that, in 1998, also there was another El Nino. But we are saying in the climate change happening now, we are going to find out that we are going to experience this quite frequently and with more intensity than before. That is what climate change is all about. So number one, we are saying climate change is real. We are also saying that these floods are testing Kenya's preparedness and mitigation that are wanting. It is obviously they are wanting. I was once doing some NGO work, and we did something about disaster preparedness. I and Omondi were carrying out, we were administering some questionnaire about disaster preparedness. The first thing that surprised me was the deputy then of disaster preparedness in the country, and I'm not saying this to say that they are not qualified, was a 27-year-old youth. A 27-year-old was the person in charge of disaster management in the entire country. His budget then, if I remember quite well, was about 30 million. That was what the government had given him. That should any disaster come, you have 30 million to deal with this disaster. About 10 years down the line, it has not improved, because figures that I have here, 2020, we had allocated 36.35 million for disaster management in the entire country.
3.5 million.
36.35. And then in 2021, we had allocated 38 million. In 2022, we had allocated 43.96 million. For this year, we had only allocated 41 million to combat any emergency, not only the flood. Now we are talking about disaster management, any kind of disaster that would have come to the country. So you can see those figures.
Are they for national level?
National. Yeah. So number one, disaster management in Kenya is grossly underfunded. And even again, another interesting thing is that this year, now you are talking about this year, the budget now that they are presenting, it is 1.9 billion. 1.9 billion. With this flood, it's 1.9 billion. And we have even some counties, out of 47 counties, I think only 34 as a department on disaster.
Yes.
The rest are sitting pretty. Kakamega, Bungoma, Tana River are counties that are sitting pretty. They don't know. They have never spent a pen. And yet, Tana River is prone to floods more than any other county. Kakamega is also prone to flood, and they have never spent a coin. We are saying out of 1.3 or out of 1.9 billion that they had been given, a half was not even spent. So we have a case of underfunding and also a case of not even using. You are returning to the treasury and saying we did not experience any disaster. It's a very interesting phenomenon. It's almost a paradox in that the president the other day said if this disaster is to be mitigated, it requires 20 billion. But the budget is saying 1.9 billion. So out of 20, we are giving you 2 billion. Let's say 1.9 is nearly 2 billion. We are giving you 10% to address 100% problem. So that is the scenario. That we underfund, and even when we underfund, we still don't have a clear policy on floods. And that's why a minister woke up at 1 a.m., was it? And announced schools will not be open tomorrow. Because we lack a clear policy framework or even a policy on if it rains beyond, a certain limit, what do we do? We are telling people to move to higher ground. The fundamental question is where? Where higher ground? Where are you going to that higher ground? Are you going to find a house? When you move from your house and you are told, now because it's raining downstream, go to higher ground. Where are you going? It's raining. Where? Okay. Are you going to receive provisions, basics? Is there food for you once you move to higher ground? We actually like a completely, a practical legal framework, or even just say practical ways of going about these things. And therefore you can see border trying to cross, river and being swept away. People are trying to cross, flooded river using their vehicles, being washed away. We actually are not prepared for any disaster. And I've begun by the history that I actually found. I think we were with Omondi, Joseph Omondi of Midrift. I think we did that exercise for about 3 weeks. And I gathered that completely we are actually unprepared for any disaster, even around flooding, and just about any disaster. But this accords us an opportunity. We've been saying that don't build near the riparian, 30 meters. But if we go now, where the river is now, where the water mass is now, and your house is there, that house is not supposed to be there. That house is not supposed to be there in the first place. Well, that is a waterway.
But we're supposed to give a nod for building a house in a riparian, because even before you build your own house,
yes.
For example, there are those guys who are building their home, not even homes, their commercial houses at riparian in Nairobi.
Yeah.
They are building flats in Nairobi. Yeah. Therefore, NEMA must be practically on the ground to give a nod on any construction within a riparian, even the estates.
Yeah.
But maybe in the villages it's a bit difficult, but in our cities, NEMA must be very active.
About that.
Yes.
I want to give an example. Why is there no flooding in Nakuru? Nakuru was the headquarters of the White Island. It means Nakuru planning was done by the colonialists, if you may call them that. And the way it is structured is that all water seems to flow to Lake Nakuru uninterrupted. I was born and brought up here. So, we experienced very little in terms of flooding, apart from when they left and we decided the farmlands at Kaptembwa and Londa would serve as, structures. Now the water is after they left. Therefore, it calls for adequate planning, as you are putting it. Where do we build the houses? But this accords us an opportunity. Where there is a water mass, you should not build. Because even if it is 50 years down the line, where the water passes, it is still for where it will pass.
Okay.
And it will not respect. It will not respect whether it's a city or in a
village.
In a village, the water will pass there. And you are putting it rightly. Where is NEMA? Why are we finding ourselves that the people like the slums area, they are built along the river? It is because that riparian, that 30 meters from the river to where the first building should be, it is left on its own, and then politicians now take advantage, settle poor people along that because they are voters. So at the end of the day, when disaster strikes, when floods come, they are the first to be swept. But actually, we ought to be 30 meters away from any water mass. And land is still plenty in Kenya. We are hardly 50 million of us. What will happen in the next 10 or 20 years when we double our population? So it calls for adequate preparedness about how we build our houses, where do we build them, and should even disaster strike. And this is the budgets that you want to see. We've already lost 238 tribes by the latest count, and those are modest. Those are the people who the government can actually say they found, but a lot of people will die. From here, we are going to move to the next level. After the water subsides, we are going to hear cases of cholera, typhoids.
Actually, it's like they've already been announced.
It's already started. And our doctors are on strike. So again, how prepared are we about this? Cholera is, of course, it was going to be almost automatic because water was going to mix with sewage. So how prepared are we? So,
but who is to blame? Is it the government, the public?
The government. What we do, a government exists to do what a person cannot do in their own individual capacities. So we pay taxes so that we have NEMA, we have even those people you are saying theologians are now in the fire department. Probably they are the people who should be doing some mitigation in floods also. Because probably the department is one, whether fire or floods, I'm just assuming. So we pay so that we receive those services that we, on our individual capacities, cannot be able to do that. So it's usually the government as the first. Okay, but I can actually tell you the departments that are directly charged with that responsibility, so that you can actually now know. The first department is the State Department for Internal and National Administration, the NGAOS. The next is the State Department for Arid and Semi-Arid Lands. Those ones receive adequate budget.
Is it still alive, that department?
Yeah?
Is it still alive?
Yeah, it is. Very active. In fact, one of the most lucrative ministries is this. Then you have the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Those are the people who are supposed to build dams. Those are the people who are supposed to clear, tunnels where the water will pass. Once we have this an El Nino, you obviously know water will.
But before we move from that Ministry of Water, which is responsible for the dams, I came to realize that Kenya has a lot and a lot of dams. Through these floods. In fact, it's now that we are hearing this dam is overflowing. Even in, I think, Turkana or West Pokot, they have a very big dam, which is now overflowing. We didn't know about these dams.
Yeah, they are there. The dams are there, are pretty, and we need more.
Have they been useful?
And we need more. We actually need more because, if we were better organized, the water that has fallen on us this season was enough to last us for another 3 years. That would not have needed water. And Kenya, we depend on rain-fed agriculture, which of course is not predictable and not very, very useful. But we can say if we were adequately prepared, actually we should be celebrating that we've received enough water to last us for about 2 years.
It's okay with that, but what is stopping us from using that water now, because it's available?
Before Bwana Gadhogo
I wanted to finish the key actors.
Okay.
We have also the National Disaster Management Unit. Actually, the one that we were handling with Omondi was this National Disaster Management Unit. We were administering questionnaires about the preparedness, about floods, fire, something like that. And then we have a disaster risk operation. Then we have emergency teams at KDF. The Army has a unit for emergencies. So all these guys now, the six, and then of course we have the county government, the 7. So all these 7 the people now should actually be asking, where are you? What are you doing?
When this happened?
What are you planning?
And when this is happening?
Yeah, so the 7.
Good. And you'll actually be trying also to answer those questions even as we pick up with this particular conversation. But of course, in this particular show, we also have an opportunity where we have our reporters interacting with Kenyans, with the citizens, to also get their opinions on what they think. And therefore, our reporter went to the streets and got to ask a number of Kenyans what do they think about how, as a country, as a nation, we've been dealing with these floods menace. And this is what they were able to collect. Our director, you can give us.
Je, wewe kwa maoni yako umeona kama taifa imewajibika vilivyo kuhakikisha kwamba inakabiliana na athari zinazotokana na mafuriko?
Mara ya kwanza nitasema kwa hii mvua sasa. Mara mingi tunasikia kwa radio kwamba kuna mvua aina fulani inakuja, lakini hii sasa hata tukusikia kwa tunasema kwa watu wa hali ya anga nini na nini, lakini serikali wamejaribu. Juu mvua imekuza kama nchi yote. Sasa nitasema wamejaribu. Juu mvua ni baraka kutoka kwa Mungu. Sasa ndio nikisema serikali wamekosa kuwajibika na nchi yote. Wamejaribu.
Tuseme nini advice ndio tuseme hawana juu kama ni pesa iko. Lakini nadhani pia wanaangalia tumbo zao kwanza. Sasa sisi afadhali tubebo tupelekwe Indian Ocean, lakini kwanza washibe. Juu sasa kama ni zile pesa ujue wangeweza kusaidia kama saa hii ujue kuna watu wanakaa huku tu nje hawana kwa kulala, wanakaa pengine hata kwa miti. Lakini unaona zile pesa wangetumia vizuri, sema saa hii kama ni hizo mashule juu hazijafunguliwa wangepelekwa huko walishwe na kadhalika. Na pia watengeneze drainage.
Okay, I know it will be like politically correct if we complain about the government to say, oh, they haven't done enough, but I feel like it's a disaster. It's a calamity, and I don't think they could have prepared for how destructive it has been, especially those, like the tragedy in Kijabe. They couldn't have foreseen that. Maybe they could have worked on the drainage systems when people were complaining about them when it was raining last year, but since they didn't, I feel like they're trying their best, but it's not enough. Yeah.
Haijakabiliana na hii hatari ya mafuriko kwa sababu kulingana vile watu wanateseka, watu hawana makao na kubomolewa manyumba bila hata notice. Sioni hapo kama serikali imepelekana na watu wake vizuri kwa sababu walikuja kuahidi ati watawasaidia na shilingi 10,000. Shilingi 10,000 ukipatiwa hata kama ni wewe wakati huu na venye maisha imepanda, gharama ya maisha imekuwa juu. Kenya ambayo inaweza kukufanyia mtu kama wewe ni nini? Haiwezi kukusaidia, uko na familia, uko na watoto. Shilingi 10,000 si kitu kulingana vile mambo imekuwa ikitusukuma. Hata saizi vile niko kwangu saizi, hata nikipewa 10,000 hakuna kitu yote inaweza kanisaidia naye. Hiyo ni pesa ya siku 2 na inakuwa imeisha. Kwa hivyo kulingana hii janga la mafuriko vile ambavyo imeathiri wa Kenya, serikali sioni ikiwa na huruma na wao. Ingekuwa na huruma na wao, haingewabomolea nyumba bila kuwapea notice. Haingewabomolea nyumba kimastuka namna hii atikupewa 24 hours. Hautakuwa umejipanga. At least wangepewa hata kama ni wiki moja, wajipange na waonesho kwenye watapelekwa. Si kukuja kufurusha namna hiyo kama wewe si Mkenya. Hiyo ni kukosea wale watu wengine huruma hata kidogo. Huruma kwa si vizuri hata kidogo. Hata wao wajifikirie, waone walikosea kufurusha watu na kuwabomolea, kuharibia nyumba. Hiyo ni makosa sana.
Kulingana mimi juu kitu ya kwanza imekuja azini imerespond ikiwa too late. Time yenye watu wamebebwa, wengi wamekufa. Kitu ya kwanza ingefanya, ingeanza mipango mikakati. Juu walikuwa wanajua in the long run walikuwa wanajua kutakuwa na nini na mvua kubwa. So wange unblock nini drainage, lakini kosi ya mafuriko in the first place hata si imeanza kitambo. Shida yenye imekuwa ni ati kuna poor planning. So maji inakuja ina block, watu wamejenga kwa mfanya nini, lakini kwa maoni yangu serikali hapo imefeli.
On that one I'll give them a 50%. The other 50 not yet. the meteorologist had updated us on this, but I think the government did not take it too serious. I think that's why we were caught unaware. Number one, anyone who is living near rivers, they should be evacuated. Number two, they should also ensure that our ishi kando ya mito wamekaa mbali. They should not approve houses that are supposed to be built near the rivers. I think those are the most sana.
Serikali haifanyi la kutosha. Sababu kwa mfano kama ni ya mafuriko tunapata kwa saa hii, utapata ile wakati walituambia kuna mafuriko hayakuja. Wakanunua bote Nairobi, lakini ni kama waliuza ama walipeleka wapi. Sasa unaona saa hii kuna hii mafuriko, ndio wanaanza kukimbia hapa na tugambut, lakini kidogo hawasaidii wananchi.
Kulingana na jinsi ambavyo hali imekuwa katika grounds, wametusaidia sana. Wametuma tinga ambalo limekuja limefungua mabomba ya mahali penye maji kwa kisumbua watu, na tunaona imepunguza mafuriko ambayo yalikuwa yanatusumbua.
Very well, of course, Kenyans, they are giving their opinions and giving their perspectives on what they think about how the government has actually been dealing with the current flood menace, the flood disaster. Interesting, Kagi, as we always say in this particular show, it seems Kenyans are very much informed.
Very knowledgeable.
And informed. Yeah, I think they should form a committee to address the issue. They seem to have all the information that we are giving here. Right. Say number one, preparedness. Number two, mitigation. And now number three, we are entering the phase of recovery. Sure. How do you recover so that those livelihoods are made sustainable once again? People have lost houses, people have lost jobs, people have lost farms. Yes. How do we mitigate so that we recover the livelihoods?
And talking about mitigation, and of course we've seen the government, of course they are the people who have actually been told that they'll be compensated with 10,000 Kenya shillings.
Is that compensation? That was not, I don't think the president intended to call it compensation. Yes. I think it was, we give you this 10,000 so that you can move to the, in quote, higher ground.
The higher ground. Which you said they really...
There's nothing on the higher ground. Number one, where is it? Where is that?
So from the word go, the government should actually be the one. It should not just ask people to move. Yeah. It should be the one evacuating people.
Had they given the 10,000 maybe a week before the rain and said, we actually, this area, we actually using it so that the water can pass. Yes. Actually, it would have been more of use. But now 10,000 when you don't even have a sufuria to go cook, 10,000 you don't have rent to go rent a house, and in Nairobi, I think it is too little, too late.
And I'm told it was for 3 months.
For? Oh yeah, yes. The 10,000 is supposed to last you for 3 months. Yes. Again, it's too little. Too soon. But it's a step ahead in that, number one, the government was admitting that we cannot not actually force the people out without giving them just some kind of move away from the river token. And again, now we are calling them climate change IDPs because now they have been displaced by the climate change. But I wanted to point out quickly the challenges that comes about with this kind of thing, so that we are also clear.
Yeah, actually, and as we talk about that, because you mentioned about climate change, this being now a global phenomenon.
It is.
Are you of the opinion that it is it has to do more with what maybe we as a country can manage now that this is not it is not locally a cost?
It is a global phenomenon, and of course it's not happening everywhere. Probably this time it is happening to us, but it has been happening in other countries. And we should actually now learn from them how they cope. I think that is what a country does. Waswahili husema mwenzako akinyolewa tia chako maji ama utanyolewa bila maji. So the challenges that we we face is a lack of a robust disaster management strategy. We don't have.
We don't have. Absolutely zero.
That's why now what the president was doing is basically PR. And he should do that actually, because you give people hope. You kind of try to give people hope even in a hopeless situation, because before that people are asking, where's the president? Because actually you are the commander-in-chief in 24/7 in any situation.
But of course he delegates.
Yeah,
He doesn't have to be seen everywhere.
You can also delegate, but there are situations that call for only one man, and he has no deputy at that instant. He's the commander-in-chief. So at that particular time, he did kudos for him to appear, though with very little, but just the mere presence that he's listening, he's seeing, that I think was good of him.
On the same challenge that you are spoken about, the lack of preparedness, I was making an observation on our learning institutions, which is highly affected by the floods in many parts of the country. And it reminded me on, I think 2 years ago, we had a challenge with the COVID-19, whereby schools were closed almost 1 year. And we tried to come up with ways to be able to make learning continue. And when the COVID faded out, we went back to the factory settings. Again now, the same learning institutions are affected by floods. We don't know until when. That is 1 month or 2 months or 1 term, we don't know, or even few weeks. Suppose, and it's not our wish, that it takes longer than expected, then it means that we are going to lose the whole term without any intervention. What I'm trying to say is we had COVID-19, which affected our learning processes. We left it at that. The floods are here again. Our learning process is affected again 2 years later. We are doing nothing. Children are at home. And if the flood subsides, we go back again to
factory setting. Okay, number one, we learned a lot from COVID in that we can be able to close schools and be able to recover the syllabus, which was a good thing, that the children did not lose out. Even after staying out, I think the term was elongated to 9 months. There was a time they went 9 months non-stop. Then again, we can say schools or education remain the greatest equalizer in Kenya. We have schools that have been completely washed away. Of course, like Nakuru, if you wanted to say schools to continue tomorrow, they could learn. But what about our other places in the country? So education being the greatest equalizer, we want all the we want all the children to get access to education at the same time.
But of course, there are those who are arguing, even as it may be, as you put it, we still have a lot of disparity. Because we know that
there are disparities that exist.
Especially when talking about private schools.
Yeah, there are disparities that exist, but as far as I'm concerned, all schools are supposed to be closed. Because if you give some children a head start, and schooling remains the greatest equalizer in our social development, so to say. I come from Nakuru South Side, that is a slum area in Nakuru. And apart from the little education that I got from the municipal council and the Catholic Church, probably I would have wasted away. But education being a great equalizer gives chances to even people who would not have, developed to their full potential. So it makes them develop to their true potential. So we cannot open school for a few and close it for more. First of all, the schools are being used as IDP camp, climate IDP camps, because where else can people go to? Secondly, there are schools that have been completely washed away, meaning there is no longer any school. So until we take stock, that is the recovery phase we are talking about, we take stock so that we can be able to say, you are going to school here, can you maybe transfer here? And yeah, it's going to take a while before things become completely normal again, just like COVID.
And one of the things that I thought we could have done as a country, the government and the public, is all of us to gear towards helping to build our e-learning.
Or our e-learning infrastructure.
Because if you look at our system, okay, we are saying that e-learning is expensive.
Yeah.
But my concern is, if you go to our homes,
yeah,
how much money are we spending with our children
on
social media?
On social media, a lot.
When it comes to e-learning, it's expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah. But in some areas,
yes,
in urban areas, it is practical.
Yes.
In some remote villages, probably even the e-learning, they don't know what you're talking about, and we are still saying education should remain the greatest equalizer. A child deep in Turkana should get equal access to fully potentially develop themselves. But I get what you are saying. Now the government should now actually learn from past disasters and try to come out with an infrastructure that will support children not going to school physically and probably learn at some centers or home, continue with their learning, which is very possible. So that is also a mitigation strategy that should be employed towards school. We also seen in the recovery phase, the doctors are on strike. We want the government to conclude with the doctors so that cholera does not now become the bigger killer than
the floods.
Actually, the floods. So a lot of challenges that we don't have that strategy. We have inadequate coordination. As you can see now, we are now, like learning like headless chickens.
But they're talking about coordination, and of course these floods are also, it is within the counties.
Yeah.
Are the counties funded?
2% of counties' budget are supposed to go to disaster management.
2%?
2% of
that is, for example, like in Nakuru?
Like in Nakuru, we got about 2 billion. It means 2% of 2 billion. It's a lot of money. But do we have trained personnel to use that money? We just said that 2% goes back to Treasury because it's underutilized, and yet they require more.
Okay.
You're getting. That's why I called it a paradox, whereby even that 2% they don't use.
They don't use it.
Yeah. Like I mentioned Kakamega, I said Bungoma, I said Tana River, and there's another county that don't even have a team. They have never spent a coin on disaster. I don't know how they survive. So we don't even have reliable data. Again, if you are to be asked how many children are at home, you'll be told about. There's nothing about. It should be a number, a definite number, so that you can be able to say they can learn here, they can be transferred here, or you require Wi-Fi, I don't know, masks and all that. We don't have that. We don't even know how many have been displaced. As a matter of fact, I don't believe we've only lost 238. But that is the data that we are using. Okay, this is the term I was looking for. Underspending and misappropriation. How have we been surviving? We've been surviving this way. If a disaster comes, ministries reallocate their funding and give to emergency, and once that emergency is over, we go back to factory setting. We've never come to accept that these things will be happening to us quite often, and made a concrete budget and said, like the president said, we require 20 billion. And Red Cross, is it Red Cross or the other one, Crescent? Then they were saying about is it about 5 billion or something like that. So again, we are not sure, is it 5 billion or is it 20 billion? So it is the work of the government planning department to be able to say this one will be adequate for this particular time. And not all counties are hard hit. Like Nakuru is not hard hit apart from Mai. Otherwise the rest, the town from Gilgil coming this way, probably they don't even know whether we have a very big disaster at Mai. So again, that one is also very important. So again, preparedness, recovery effort, And what else? We have inadequacy and deficiencies in response and recovery. Those are things that now the government ought to be leading the way in how to go about it. Tungekuwa tukiona chief, DOs, district commissioners, leading efforts towards that, or people from government, because that state department is charged with any threat internally in Kenya. And even if probably they don't know this, is that it's their role, it's right at their doorstep. We don't only want to be seeing police only when we go to demonstrate and they have to throw tear gas canisters.
They should be very conspicuous. Also at a time like this.
And the military when it comes to building of bridges and stuff, so that if a bridge breaks today, I mean, we have trained personnel sitting pretty in barracks who can be able to be used for that. Okay, all that requires, of course, a policy document. It requires laws. It requires a framework that works towards ensuring that we are safe when floods or any other disaster.
And Bwana Gathogo, talking about the houses, the structures that we've seen being erected in the water pathways, and they're quite many. And of course, this is basically impunity. And now that this is the era of climate change, and maybe you are likely to be seeing some of these floods even in the near future, are we talking about now the government being very stringent in terms of bringing them down?
But that is the role of government. The role of government, what we read is that all land belongs to the people of Kenya. But of course, the custodian is the Kenyan government. There's nothing private about your land. It is actually our land. It's just that we've given you now to develop. So should we feel that it is a danger to us or to you? We can compensate you and give you a different piece of land and say, actually build here, it is safer for you. After all, who want to build a house that will be swept tomorrow by floods? That is impunity. That's what we are saying. Precisely, we are saying the government should put their foot down and say 30 meters from any river that is riparian land, let's plant trees or do anything else, any other activity apart from building. We can use that land to plant enough trees. Another thing about recovery, this is the best time to plant trees. And we had promised ourselves to plant how many trees? 150 million. We could plant trees now, they can survive. So with the rains, when we come to recovery, do we also see out of this El Nino rains, we are able to meet our target on tree planting? Those are some of the things or ideas that we are saying. We're also expecting a very pamper harvest, because of course our informal economy is actually based on the rain. You remember the president coming to pray for rain here, because if it doesn't rain in Kenya for 2 years, be sure it can even make the government to fall. So the rain is very important, water is very important. So are we also coming up with better way of managing the water that is now a resource? When water falls the way it has fallen, are we just seeing the danger without seeing the opportunity? Are we developing any opportunity to enable us farmers to irrigate land that is usually not possible to irrigate? Can we build more dams? I want to tell you, with even all that rainfall, we are not adding 1 watt of electricity. Why should that be the state of affair? With all that rain, there is not a single watt of electricity.
And the seven Fox dams are full.
They are full,
to the brim.
But their capacity is just the same way. If we are producing 10 watts, it's 10 watts.
Still the same.
So we've not added even 1 watt. So where can we even build temporary, those, you call them what? Fox or hydroelectric production unit, so that we can be able to say when it comes, when disaster strike, we also do something that also help in mitigating. Because we are also going to require a lot of electricity to rebuild. But we should have actually harnessed the flowing water. So when we talk about recovery, we are talking about instead of only being victims of our fate, we can become drivers of our destiny.
Sure.
And say this helps. We can grow more maize, we can grow more food, and the prices will come down. Now the money that Kenyan would struggle to put ugali on the table, it is going to come about because now there will be a pamba harvest that will ensure that they get the meals on the cheap.
Okay.
So all those things are very, very important. Yeah.
I don't know whether this one is one of the ways to be able to recover. There was a proposal from some farmers because of the various disasters, floods and drought.
Yeah.
For example, we heard yesterday that the Pakera irrigation scheme, where they do some seeds, is being flooded. And there was a farmer who was saying yesterday he has 10 acres of land, and they are being given a loan of, I think, 20,000 shillings per acre to do farming. In many countries in the world, they give farmers, I think, insurance or something. I don't know whether it is prudent for our local farmers, especially for those who are doing large-scale farming, to be secured with insurance and compensation in case these calamities occur.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is important to think outside the box, because now climate change will force us actually to think outside the box. Because now after El Nino, La Nina is on the way. Probably there will be drought for another 2-3 years or so. We are going out to be crying again for rains. So I think ideas like those ones are also important. Again, where do we store our food? There will be a pampa harvest this year. Do we have storage capacities so that, you know, like Joseph in the Bible, they say 7 years you are going to grow, and then 7 years, you know, it's going to be done. Do we have even that capacity? We don't. I was in Makueni the other day. They are going to harvest, because that's where actually this El Nino first began. But I did not see any storage, either government or private, that can actually, and you know they are planting for 3 seasons, 3 seasons per year, because their maize grows for 4 months or something like that. But I did not see that.
Maybe
so where are they going to sell?
Through middlemen taking them to Nairobi.
Where? Nairobi, there will be maize from probably Kiambu, somewhere near. So even our capacity to be able to store what we produce during a year like this one is also being called to test. Because if we were to harvest and keep that food, even when it will not rain, we would have experienced, you know, the prices surges will not be as high. So when we are talking about now disaster management, those are some of the things that we should actually be addressing at this particular time. It's not looking at only the flood, and then after the flood, we go back to factory setting. That is going to, if there's the same way Mutai Kagwe used to say, if we treat this disease normally, it is going to treat us abnormally. So the same way, if we treat climate change normally, it's going to treat us abnormally.
Okay. Just before we come to the close of our conversation, we always prepare for you a segment known as Know Your Constituency, where we take you to one of the constituencies in the country and just try to help you acquaint yourself with how that particular constituency is. And today, Kage, we are going all the way to Kisumu County. We are going all the way to Kisumu County. If we have our viewer from Kisumu County, of course, I know they are really waiting to see which constituency will this be. And this is Muhoroni constituency. Muhoroni constituency is actually one of the constituencies in Kisumu County, and it was established for the 1988 general election. The current MP for Muhoroni constituency is Hon Oyo James Onyango. Oyo James Onyango is the current MP for Muhoroni constituency. We have some other highlights. We have previous members of parliament for this particular constituency. In 1988, we first had Matthew Onyango Midika on KANU. Come 1992, we had Justice Alo Ogeka on Ford Kenya. Then in 1997, we had William Odongo Omamo on NDP, National Development Party. Come 2002, we had Professor Patrick Ayecho Olueny on ODM. Then 2007 again, Professor Patrick Ayecho Olueny retained the seat on ODM. 2013, we had Onyango James Oyo on ODM. 2017, again, Onyango James Oyo on ODM. And in the last general election, 2022, he still maintained that seat. That is on Onyango James Oyo, still on ODM. Yes, that is Onyango James Koyo. My director is telling me I should pronounce it as Koyo, not Oyo. The words that we find in Muhoroni constituency, we have Fort Tenan, we have God Nyithindo, we have Koru, we have Muhoroni Town, we have Owaga, we have Ombei South, Chemilil, we have Miwani, we have Northeast Kano, we have another ward there called Nyangoma, and Ombei North Tamu. Those are some of the words, actually the words that we find in Muhoroni constituency. And of course the main economic activity there being sugarcane farming. That is the main economic activity for Muhoroni constituency, sugarcane farming. Kagi?
Yes.
That is Muhoroni.
Yeah, I didn't know Fort Tenan is in Muhoroni.
Yes,
just learned today.
Yes.
And also Koru. I didn't know. I thought it was on the other side of Kisumu.
Koru is where the late Dr. Uko used to have a house.
Yes.
Okay, the fourth county that I was forgetting was Nandi. They had to spend it in.
And there's one member of parliament who was very popular then, Mr. Odongo Omamo. During Kanu times.
He was quite famous.
Yes, during Kanu times.
Odongo Omamo Kariech. Kariech is elephant. He was a very heavy guy.
Yes. And Kariech means elephant.
Yeah, he used to say he was stubborn people. It's called Odongo Omamo Kariech. And at one time he was chairman of Kano Disciplinary Committee.
And that's where he was very popular. He really spoke vividly on for Kano.
For Kano. And people used to cry literally if you are told now you are going to go before the Kano disciplinary committee as a politician.
And I've actually also identified that the evolution in terms of, because you see in 1988, 1992, Kanu, then Ford Kenya, then NDP, but now from, I think, 2007, ODM. What does that mean?
Okay, ODM came about in 2005 after the failed banana orange referendum. So anything from 2005, it is ODM. Before that, there were two parties. The first one was, of course, Ford Kenya, and then followed by briefly one term NDP, and then now ODM. That's why you can see the sequence of the political history of that constituency.
Yeah, but you have not seen that constituency producing people who have been on a very serious public
discourse.
Yeah.
Although I think Professor
Olueny was quite eloquent, and even Odongo Omamo was also very, very eloquent in parliament in his days. Yes.
In terms of the economic activity, the sugarcane farming.
Yeah, and which is not, I don't know. I don't want to be politically incorrect. But I usually see sugar growing in Kenya, from the word go, it is a loss-making venture because you are competing with Uganda. The sugar outside, what do you call it? Mumias. You can buy, there's a kiosk that sells sugar from Uganda which is cheaper than the one that is produced.
Right there.
So why should you be spending a lot of your time in an activity that from the word go will be making loss? As a country, we've given them billions, we've forgiven their debts, we've done everything that ought to be done. If it was a viable going concern, I'm sorry for anybody who would have a contrary opinion, I think by this time it should be economically viable. But our sugar takes longer, and our electricity is more expensive. So unless we address those fundamental problems in our production,
I know, Bonagodo, that is a discussion that we can actually take for another premier show. Yeah. But just before we bring it to a close, let's look at the leadership quote for today. The leadership quote for today. This is what we have. We shall never change our political leaders until we change the people who elect them. This is by Mark Skousen. We shall never change our political leaders until we change the people who elect them. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with him, but it's up to the Kenyans. If you want to vote people of integrity, you have a chance. If you don't, you're going to end up with the people who are
the same cycle.
The same cycle. And actually what is very important in that you could have a policy where you keep people very poor so that when it comes to electioneering, you buy them very cheaply.
Thank you, Bonagodo. We appreciate your time. Thank you for your contribution on this very, very pertinent subject on the current flood disaster or management for that particular matter. Thank you so much also our viewer for participating and also for keeping us company for this particular discussion. We'll see you again next week. My name is Mangicho Mola. Have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you for watching our program today. My name is Paul Kagi. Enjoy the rest of your day.